And we're good. Hey, Catherine, how are
Hey,
you?
hey, Richard,
I'm
I'm good. How are you?
I'm just going to get you right off the bat just to give a quick little introduction of who you are and what you do, and then we'll dig into things a little bit deeper.
Yeah, my husband Callum, who's also in the group, and I own a small digital marketing agency called Pilot Solutions. We do mostly SEO and SEM, so we do paid media and organic search and website design and dev. And I started this company 7 years ago, 8 years ago, 2018, 2019. Anyway, we've been doing it for a while. It's Callum and I and a team of contractors.
Excellent. So I did look through your bio, and we were talking a little bit before we jumped on and started
Mhm.
recording about how you got into what you're doing, and it was an interesting, like, you, instead of a
Yeah.
normal LinkedIn profile, you talk about how you got to where you're going, and maybe just kind of share, like, how did, like, you it was a job that kind of poked you in the right direction, but I think your education as well, led to a
Mhm.
lot of research, writing, just getting to the truth of things. So I feel like that could have been some of the inspiration as well. But tell me that story, how you got into what you do.
Yeah, I always tell people that I didn't mean to start a marketing agency, and Callum and I both have never worked at a traditional marketing agency, so there was a very steep learning curve when we first opened. So I had an in-house marketing role, and then going back farther, I went to school for political science and have a master's in political science. And then when I graduated, there were no jobs, as there are right now. And I went back to school again and did business administration, which is kind of what has helped this whole endeavor run more smoothly. Um, anyway, so I started at a B2B publishing company and did admin, and then worked up to a director level role in marketing. And then decided to go out on my own and figured out how to do this agency thing from there.
So when you first got going, you got your first clients, and what was it? What were those days like? Did you try to mesh your work life to be more like what your full-time job was, or were you starting brand new?
Yeah. So it was such a steep learning curve. So I think also the scene then was that Callum had a different business. He was a professional photographer. So he had his own business, but it was not working on this business. And then we also had on the side another business that did trail running apparel. So we kind of had like three balls juggling in the air. And the majority of our income when we first started was obviously Callum's established business. And then I got clients where I could, but we did honestly mostly social media marketing, or social media ads at that time, because that was what had retainers and what I knew how to do. And so we started there. And then I realized that on the side, Callum was doing SEO for clients. And then he was building websites and like doing CRM setups and all these other things. And then I started offering those services and bringing him in. And then eventually he started full time. So when we first started, yeah, I had come from an office where the culture was you sat in your seat for 8 or 9 hours a day, and that's what my boss cared about. And the shift to that it doesn't really matter, honestly, how long I sit here. Took a while to get used to.
Yeah, you're almost started, like, I still kind of look, watch the clock, start at this time, end this time.
Yeah.
Part of that is that you I also go by deadlines too. Like, I've
Yeah.
set these arbitrary deadlines in my mind. I want to get this done by the end of the day. If that doesn't happen, I will leak into overtime. But I feel better that I have accomplished something. So I can totally see, but also the time helps me set boundaries in terms of, okay, that's enough time to
Yes.
stop, right? Because you can just keep going, right? One of the things I was going to say with the apparel business, and you got into the social media marketing, were you doing that already for your business to promote it? Like, what were you doing to help sell the apparel? What did you learn from that you carried over to this business?
The product business is super hard, and that like we want nothing to do with the product business going forward. Like the shipping rates, that whole side of the world is honestly such a pain. And I think did partially push us to have a service-based business. Um, but yeah, we grew, like we established and grew that business through social media. Um, it was trail running. Obviously, that's a very niche category with a very niche following in Instagram, Facebook, whatever. So that made it a little easier. But same thing with Calm's photography business. It was all grown basically organically through social media. So we had a lot of experience there. And then also in my corporate job, sometimes like people would pay to advertise in the magazine, but sometimes part of that was like helping with their socials. So I actually had a lot of experience also that way, helping other companies that were not where I was working, helping with their social media.
The people that I have met through networking that started in that had business open up really quickly, because it's just, it seems, and this is my assumption, my bias maybe, it seems like that's an area of need, and very few people want to tackle it because it just moves so quickly, right? So like, so I could see how that would lead to getting in. And then to complement that type of work, SEO might be there's an actual thing. Okay, we got some messaging happening through our social channels, want to drive people back to our website. So I can see how that transition, and then knowing that Callum was doing it on this side anyhow.
Yeah.
It's interesting. What was it like for you? If you can remember, and I can remember these days, the first time a customer asked you to do something that you thought you were comfortable doing, but you weren't sure about it because you hadn't done it before. What was that like? What were those days like?
Yeah, I mean that there's such a steep learning curve at first, of course, because like one, pricing your services. I think everyone listening to this knows obviously that pricing your services is a huge problem. So that and boundaries and scope creep and like all these things that we didn't know how to deal with. But then also very early we got yeah, like a biggish client, and definitely big for us then, client who was like a paint thinner manufacturer in Quebec, and they wanted us to like take over all their marketing. But like one, there was definitely like a miscommunication about what he thought we would do and what we were actually going to do. And then it was just like it was way out of what we could handle at the time. It would be fine today. It was not fine 7 years ago. And so it was a steep learning curve to also like try and manage the expectations, try and deliver what we could, and then also at some point say like this is not a good fit, and we had to move on and figure out. And then honestly, from there, it was probably like years later until we got another retainer client that big for us. But we were just too new. We didn't know what to do.
That's exciting and
Yeah.
scary at the same time. Like
Yeah.
I would,
Yeah.
in back of my head, I'm thinking your research background,
Mhm.
maybe help that. You're drowning. You're trying to learn how to do it. You're not sure. You're making mistakes. I'm sure the
Yep.
customer's getting upset, and you're feeling, probably you're getting more upset yourself than the customer is, because you have these expectations in your mind. But that's kind of how it goes, right? It's an industry that moves really quickly. So you kind of got to keep, it's that learning pace, right? So I remember I was on a call with a client talking about a government program I represent, and they started talking about things. I'm like, "What are you talking about? That is, I've never heard that from this." Went to the site, sure enough, things have changed, right? And like you're caught on your heels with that. So
Yeah.
there's something about um, owning that change confidently. That the client just wants to know. I had a professor once tell me, you just need to know, the expert in the room is the guy who knows one, or guy or girl who knows 1% more than everybody else, right? So it's
Yeah.
like the client's looking for you to take that on. I mean, have you noticed that? Have you gotten better at that? Like you recognize, like you're treading into new water, and that you're going to go it confidently in.
Yeah. I mean, I still think it's a hard line to like. We know what we think is best. You are hiring us as the expert. You should listen to us, but also like not. It's their business. It's like I think that's a very fine balance between where you're placing our expertise within your business. And obviously, the best clients we've had are the kind of clients that trust our expertise, and that's why they're hiring us. And the worst clients we've had, and we have now learned is a real red flag, is when they think that they are the experts in the thing that we are doing. Um, but yeah, it's been a huge learning process to find that balance, and also that I think it's like the expression that like whoever like looks the most confident is who people trust. Like it has nothing to do with how much we actually know, unfortunately, but it's learning that confidence that to tell someone exactly what you think, and then hope that they like want to go along with it.
There's a lot of things there. So
Yeah.
you talked about, almost like, I'm putting words in your mouth here, like the
Yeah.
consultant role rather than the doer, right? So somebody
Yeah.
knows they need to do something, doesn't have the time to do it, not necessarily as good at clients, because you become the order taker basically, right?
Right.
and then they're driving things, you lose control versus the consultant. I hear what you're trying to do. Let me talk the pains. Let me solve those. How long did it take you to figure that out? Like, was that pretty quick, or has that been painful
No, that
learning?
was like years of learning. Yeah. Yeah, I think also, especially since we over time switch services a lot. So, in our current iteration, we've been here for a few years, but especially something like doing social media and social media ads. I mean, honestly, we got out of it because I think the ROI is very hard to justify. But it, it yeah, it took a long time to learn.
Oh, that's interesting. And you talked about pricing earlier.
Mhm.
Where are you right now with pricing? Like, are you feeling pretty good with how you price? Are you like, have you got something pretty structured, or does it change per client?
Yeah, I mean, it changes for per client because it changes based on deliverables and a lot of our whether it's retainer based or project based. It just for us, what matters honestly is like how much time we spend. So it's if you want less time, it will be less expensive. So we're very flexible that way. We technically have SEO packages. I don't think anyone ever buys them as they are because they're always adjusted up or down based on what the client needs. Because also, I think we do something very specialized where like company A and B might be in the same industry, but they maybe don't need exactly the same services. Or so, yeah, we spend a lot of time changing, but we do over time. We have developed like a Callum did this, and it's really great. Like a little spreadsheet where you can like input how much everyone's time is, and then it like spits out a number about how much we should charge, and then we like adjust based on that.
So have you found that even though you don't stick to the packages, have you found some comfort from the client's perspective? Like, is the client comfortable with the packages, and then okay, now let me introduce it, and has that helped your sales
I think it's
processes?
helped. Yes, it's definitely helped like streamline our sales process, not make us take so long making proposals and that whole side of it. It has also helped. We do a lot of like white label work for other agencies and partnerships, and I think it's helped more on that side than the client side necessarily. Because I think other agencies like referencing like this you want your Google Analytics set up, it will be this much, and then they can mark it up and pass it on to their client or
Yeah.
whatever
So
service is.
so having a predictable price that they can work with, it helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense to them, and
Yeah.
then they can work on the nuances behind that. What's how do you compare? I'll work at like kind of like distributing your services like through an agency versus going direct to clients. What's the pros and cons of both?
Um, I mean, the clear pro with the agency with white labeling our partnership should be that like we have less client communication, it takes less time. The reality is that that's not necessarily true, and in a lot of the cases, especially if our like the agency we're working with, their project is bigger than we actually do talk to their client and like look like we're part of their team. So that part is not taken out. Obviously, the business development part is taken out for us, which is nice. Um, but honestly, to us, a lot of it's kind of the same across the board. It's nice our own clients we have a relationship with, like a for the most part, we say we're a small team. We know our clients very well. They know us not like personally, like they know all our details, but like they know us and we know them. So that's a nice part about the direct client relationship.
It sounds like you're dealing directly with the client, even through the agency as well, but you're part of a bigger picture. You got to kind of walk that carefully, basically, right?
Well, yeah, often like in a white label situation, we are also like we would get emails under their company and like talk to the client as if we work for their company. Um, and again, it all works for us. It doesn't really matter to us, honestly, at the end of the day. Um, but yeah, that it's definitely like a bit of a different dynamic.
Tell me about that spreadsheet that Callum was doing. Like, so how did that come about? Was that last resort? Okay, where things are too crazy for pricing. How did that come about?
No, I think we've all gone through many pricing iterations about like how to do whatever. What should we price? Are we making enough profit margin? Are we like underpricing, overpricing? How does it work? So I don't know where he found it. He found it somewhere and manipulated it so it works for our company. But it like essentially has everyone's burdened hourly rate, if you've heard of burdened hourly rate. So which is like not just like minor counts, but hourly rate in like terms of salary, but also like the expenses of running the business and any overhead and whatever into it. And then it takes that into like account of project based so that we're accounting for all our expenses. But yeah, it's essentially, I think everyone's nightmare is kind of pricing. And is our pricing perfect? No, but but this helps like at least try to account for more things, because I think it's also the like slippery slope of we are this much an hour, whatever else is this much an hour, can we just like put those together but not account for like any of the like greater business expenses?
I like it. So that's the first time I've heard that burden. You said it,
Oh,
burden
okay.
salary,
Burdened hourly rate is what it's called.
burden
There's like a
hourly
little
rate.
formula. I can send it to you.
Yeah, actually, I please, and I'll share it in the group.
Mhm.
It sounds like it accounts for fixed costs, variable costs, everything that you run. It's basically you got to throw that into your hourly rate, because the only way you're making money is through your hourly. So you need to account for all those other things. That makes
And then
sense.
also keep in mind that like, for example, my hourly rate, because I do like the more client work you do, the more your hourly rate kind of goes down because it's justified for client work. But I do very little client work. Like definitely less than 10% of my job is client work. So my hourly rate is like it looks astronomical compared to someone who actually does client work. So there's also like balancing. Like we would never charge someone what this like calculation says for my hourly rate. But it's just like balancing that you have to work on your business and in your business, and then like the cost of both of those.
Oh, I love that. I think
Mhm.
that's really important that you figured that out. What year were you in your business when that started to click?
We paid a sales consultant to help us in 2023, and this she used this calculation, so we started using that. And again, it's not perfect, but it definitely helps make a more accurate hourly rate for when you. I think, like many agencies, we would rather do project-based pricing, but when we need an hourly rate, this definitely helps it encompass more than just our time.
I love it. I don't want to
Mhm.
ask any more questions. I'm going to leave that open for the group. But is
Uh,
there one other thing that you were thinking of that I should have that you want to throw in there that I missed that on any other questions, or one other thing I should have asked?
I don't think so. I think that we generally get a lot of questions about if the group also like working with your spouse, which kind of goes back to what you said, like at the beginning of the conversation about how much like making work hours for yourself.
Yeah.
Because when this all started, it very quickly like the dominant conversation in our household becomes work, because there's always a work emergency and there's always things to think about for work. So it's also how to set the boundaries when I work when I work with my spouse and we have young kids about how to like where does the work conversation stop. And I think that's relevant even if you don't work with your spouse. Like anyone self-employed, it's so easy for work to take over your entire life. Um yeah.
I think that's huge. And I remember having a beer, having that conversation
Yeah.
surface up. And so being able to work with a spouse is pretty incredible. That says a lot for your relationship. I think you guys had a head start on that with the traveling that you guys did.
Yeah.
That so like you got used to difficult situations together. So this is just yet another, challenging situation, right? That you guys kind of conquered. So that's kudos. I mean, I'm going to leave that open for others in the group to ask about, because it's not just a husband, just relationships in general, and like having co-founders.
Mhm.
Those are all challenging. I'm going through the book by is it Ben Horowitz? I might have got that wrong, but it's called The Hard Things About Hard Things, and he talked about working with founders that have co-founders that
Yeah.
somebody has to have the decision making. Like, so in our family, for example, somebody always makes the decision. There's not a like a partnership. So my wife will take certain things on, I will take certain things on. I think in a business we'll naturally kind of like do that. What the one challenge they said was, if you don't figure that out early and you grow, everybody has to takes double the time to get to, because I got to get it approved by Catherine. Now I got to get it approved by Callum, and then the two of them together. Like, so it makes the decision making that much slower. But I think it naturally happens. I don't know if it does
I
that for you.
I think that's a super good point because we got to a point where it was like there were so many things that were just waiting to be decided because we had to talk about them. And then at some point, I mean, I think that this is also like a growth thing. It was like, I'm CEO, I'm just going to decide. And if Callum has a problem with the decision, that's fine. We can talk about it, but I'm just going to decide. And that really like helped our business grow and sped things along, because otherwise you're right. Like, it's just like a decision paralysis when you need to talk about everything and decide who's doing, like, it's too much talking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I like, you could go back. You could,
Yeah.
here's why that was a wrong decision. Okay, let's moving forward. But at least decisions are happening. They're happening quickly. And the team around you knows who's making that decision, basically, right? Which
Hmm.
sounds intimidating, but at the same time, it's comforting for them. Like, okay, I only have to ask one person. It's super quick,
Yeah.
basically, that way. I'm gonna leave it at that. I want to thank you so much, Catherine,
Thank you.
for taking this on. I know I kind of sprung this on you, but I appreciate it, and I really do believe these Ask Me Anything opportunities are going to help us get to know each other better, and I think we'll make for better collaborators. If I can get that word out of my mouth, and collaborators, and even just referrals, right? Like, I feel more comfortable already knowing what it would be like to work with you just from a short
Right.
conversation. I'm hoping everybody else gains that too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let
It's
you
great.
go because it's 10:31. I know you got a busy schedule. So thank you so much. I
Yeah.
will talk to you soon. I'll follow up with an email in terms of how to do the rest of the stuff. So
Okay.
okay.
Perfect. Sounds
Excellent.
good. Thanks so much, Richard.
See you, Catherine. Bye now.
Bye.